Welcome back. New reaction this morning to President Trump fulfilling a major campaign pledge to renegotiate one of America's biggest trade deals, NAFTA. Here's the president touting the new deal, now called the USMCA.
It's my great honor to announce that we have successfully completed negotiations on a brand new deal to terminate and replace NAFTA. The agreement will govern nearly $1.2 trillion in trade, which makes it the biggest trade deal in the United States history.
Now, this agreement between the U.S., Mexico, and Canada is raising some questions over the ongoing U.S. trade dispute with China. What will that look like with a unified group against China? Joining me right now in an exclusive interview is Larry Kudlow. He's Assistant to the President for Economic Policy and Director of the National Economic Council. Larry, it's always a pleasure to see you. Thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you.
Let's talk first on trade. Obviously, a big deal that Canada got done, and this new USMCA is in place. When do you expect the American people to feel the effects of this new trade deal?
Well, look, it's got to go through some paperwork, and it's got to go through a vote in Congress. But the key point here is that this new deal opens up a lot of markets for American farmers. Big help to American workers, you know, Main Street blue-collar workers. Much better conditions, much better resolution of some issues. It happens to open up financial services, digital services. I think it's a very good deal. And I think now all the supply chains in North America are going to continue to work out well. The President said he wants to help the U.S. negotiate better deals. I think this is a good template for that. Got to remember what it says now, USMCA. We all have to memorize that new one. Shouldn't be too hard. I'd say it's pro-growth, Maria, but it's going to take a while to kick in.
And you've already seen very strong pro-growth policies lifting the economy. We got the jobs number out on Friday, which some people question being a little lower than expected, but the prior 2 months were revised upward. How would you characterize the jobs picture right now and the economic growth prospects, Larry?
I think it's pretty remarkable, to be honest with you. You're absolutely right about the revisions prior months. So September is actually 211,000 above August. So that's a big number. Remarkably, the 3.7% unemployment rate, which we haven't had for decades, very rare. There is basically no inflation. Here's a point, good story in the paper. You know, the lower end is actually getting faster wage increases. I think these are predominantly, Maria, blue-collar workers, less skilled than some of the techie people, but they are actually getting faster wage increases than the upper end. And that's pretty remarkable, I think. And we've seen this throughout. Blue-collar workers, big story in the paper a couple of weeks ago, blue-collar workers having their best increase in many, many years. President Trump, you know, has opened up the economies, lowered tax rates, deregulation, lowered energy. He stopped the war against business. He stopped the war against success. He stopped the war against energy. Right now, the American economy is crushing it, and it's going to go on for a while, in my judgment.
For a while is what people are questioning, because there's a narrative out there, Larry, as you know, that things are going to start to slow down pretty significantly going into 2020 and in 2020 because of higher interest rates and some demographic issues. Do you see that slowdown on the horizon?
I sure don't. Now, look, 2020 is a couple of years away. I think we're in the biggest capital goods business investment spending in 20 years, okay? This is an economy that looks more like the 80s and 90s. We've beaten the 2% growth margin. Everybody said we couldn't. Atlanta Fed says it's going to be 4% again in the third quarter. Our team would take 3% plus. They said it couldn't be done. It is being done. Capital goods is going to put better productivity for workers. We're already seeing the wage gains. Yeah. Consumer spending is holding up. I just don't see where this is going to end. Here, one last point. If you can keep more of what you earn, right? If your paychecks are bigger after tax, after inflation, that goes on. If we're building new business investment, plants, equipment, technology, campuses, you name it. Why can't that go on for a good many years?
Yeah.
We haven't had that in almost 20 years.
Well, one issue is this trade fight with China, that prices are going to go up for some common goods that people buy because of these tariffs that are in place. I know it's more than just an economic issue. We've got a map here of the South China Sea because this is one of the issues that many people have been saying is one for America with regard to national security. China is building islands in the South China Sea, which we all know it does not own the South China Sea. It's building islands and then putting military bases on those islands. So what's your take in terms of where this fight with China goes now that the president has done this deal with Canada and Mexico? And I want to get your take on Europe and Japan as well.
Well, look, this whole story on trade is coming together nicely. The president's strategy appears to be working. We see this with USMCA. Now, we are holding trade negotiations with Europe. We are holding trade negotiations with Japan. We issued a tripart letter, the three countries, basically saying non-market economies, read China on that, have got to shape up. China is probably the biggest culprit, as you know. So, look, the key issues here, high tariffs, high non-tariff barriers, technology theft, intellectual property theft. There's a story in the paper yesterday in the Wall Street Journal. Let me put this out. China expands its cybersecurity rulebook, heightening foreign corporate concerns. This is brand new. They're putting in new rules that will permit Chinese officials to inspect U.S. companies and all foreign companies' information tech and access proprietary information. This is exactly a step in the wrong direction. This is forced technology transfer. This is IP theft. This is exactly what we've been warning about.
Right.
We've tried to communicate these concerns to China. So far, we've not had luck. Look, we'll talk to them. Serious and significant talks anytime, but it looks to me like they're moving in the wrong direction right now. I think this is most unfortunate. You know, you talk about national security issues. I'm going to talk about economic security issues.
Right.
Why should we allow the Chinese to own American companies in China and moreover, force us to lay out all of our technology blueprints in the name of cybersecurity, which, by the way, they cyber hack us constantly. Why should we give them new advantages in this race for technology?
And the question
that's a big problem going forward.
Is tariff the right solution here? I just have one follow-up here, because you are dealing with the dictator for life, and China will not even admit that it's been stealing our intellectual property and forcing this transfer of technology. Are you sure that tariffs are going to be the thing to actually move the needle here?
Well, look, I don't know. I think, look, President Trump has been very strong on this issue. You know, a lot of people blaming POTUS for imposing tariffs as part of his trade strategy. He is, first and foremost, a trade reformer, as I think you know that. We have given China our asks any number of times regarding the technology issues and the IP and the tariffs and the trading balances and so forth. I think you know that, too. My advice is don't blame Trump. Help us. Don't hurt us. Help us, because there's got to be parity. There's got to be a level playing field. There's got to be reciprocity. China, regrettably, is not playing by the rules and has not played by those rules for many years. Prior U.S. presidents have given lip service. President Trump is giving the toughest rebuttal and actions against them. You got to protect the U.S. economy, Maria. You got to protect our technology family jewels, our inventiveness, our innovation. You got to protect our workforce and our new businesses. That's the strength of America's free market economy.
Understood.
The president is doing just that.
Yep. Maybe
a sit down at the G20 in Argentina, maybe not. I'll put that out there. Our allies are working with us, the EU and Japan. Really, objectively, you got to give President some credit on this. He's taken the fight to China. It's a worthy fight.
For sure. Larry, it's great to see you this morning. Thanks very much. Larry Kudlow joining us this morning at the White House.